Hi, this is Dr. Darren Schmidt at the Nutritional Healing Center of Ann Arbor, and this video is about the Curse of Louis Pasteur. It's a book with historical facts about research a long time ago that set up the foundation of how we treat microorganisms today. So the point is that we have Louis Pasteur, who he did research in a lab, and at the same time in Paris there was a guy named Antoine Béchamp, and they were like enemies, if you will. They had differing opinions on microorganisms, and it turns out that Antoine Béchamp was right and Louis Pasteur was wrong. So Louis Pasteur said that there's one organism causing one disease, and it turns out he actually faked his demonstrations. So back, when Louis Pasteur was alive, there was no TV or radio, so people would entertain themselves on the streets, and they'd go to dance halls, they'd go to theaters. But Louis Pasteur actually did demonstrations in the street, and he really loved applause, and he faked his demonstrations. And this is proven because, well, first of all, his research papers were kept in the family for many decades until the 1970s, and then they were donated to a French library, so then it was open to public scrutiny, and it was discovered that Pasteur faked his demonstrations for applause. Now, Antoine Béchamp was the guy who said the opposite of Pasteur. Antoine was a lab rat, if you will. He loved being in his lab, working in his lab. He didn't need applause. He didn't do demonstrations in the street. But his theory was called the pleomorphic theory. So many changes of shape, many shapes is what that means. Organisms change to adapt to their environmental stressors. So it's like antibiotic-resistant bacteria. That proves the pleomorphic theory is correct. Also, superweeds in agriculture. There's over 30 superweeds that do not respond to herbicides because they're changing and they're adapting to their environmental stress, which includes herbicides. Okay, so I'm going to show you there's other people besides Béchamp who discovered these organisms. And I'm going to call them pre-organisms. Now imagine a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. It's a completely different shape, same animal, pleomorphic. It has more than one shape. So there are these organisms that lay dormant, and they wait for your immune system to become weak or to have like altered normal physiology in your body, and it takes that environment and it has to change and adapt to that environment. That's why you want to keep your body healthy so that these organisms stay normal or they stay dormant. So I'm going to list off a bunch of researchers, and these people did not know each other. They didn't have knowledge of other discoveries. They discovered these pre-organisms on their own. And these people had similar discoveries because they were all good with microscopes. They're all good with optics. So Antoine Béchamp, he called these pre-organisms microzymas. Wilhelm Reich called them bions. Walter Cannon said these are cells that could go dormant. Gaston Naessens called them somatids. Gunther Enderlein called them endobionts. And Royal Rife called them turquoise bodies or pinpoint cells. So these are all describing the same pre-organism. They just have different names because they discovered them and named them something that they created. They gave them a name that they had created. Now I need to point out Florence Nightingale. She's the founder of nursing. And she says there are no specific diseases, there are specific disease conditions. And she had discovered this pre-organism scenario, not with a microscope, but just by observing patients and seeing, like, those people aren't sick, these people are, they're not near each other, but then they got the same disease. And so she surmised that there must be some pre-organism in their body that changes based on the stress that the body's going through. So I just wanted to point her out because she's mentioned in the book. So I'm going to show you this book again. It's the pinkest book on the market. It's called The Curse of Louis Pasteur, written by Nancy Appleton. And Nancy has a great number of books, and they're very good. She's a great author. So now in my practice, I use form of testing called muscle testing, and it's measuring energy fields, and I actually look for and find these pre-organisms. I have tools to help me find these pre-organisms, and then I take care of them by healing the body and making the body more and more viable, giving it more and more life, and then these things go away, as opposed to a body that's sick and the tissue is non-viable. So non-viable tissue needs to be returned back to the soil. So let me reframe that. When your body's dead, the tissues need to go back into soil. It's fungus, bacteria, viruses, and parasites that make your body decompose. So we want to do the opposite of that. We want to make your body very viable, very healthy. So if somebody has chronic lung infections, that means their lungs are not viable, so you got to repair the lung tissue. And so sometimes they need actual help for the immune system to get rid of the organism that might be taking advantage of poor lung tissue or weak lung tissue. So sometimes you have to take care of that too. But you also have to repair the tissue itself. So this is a brand new concept for all of medicine, that there's an organism that can lay dormant, and then under stressful scenarios or a weak immune system, that they flourish, they change shape, they change into a virus, they change into a fungus. It's like a dog turning into a giraffe. Completely different animal, they look completely different, but these are actually organisms that are the same, just changing their shape. So, new information.